Hi, it's Ricky of Moshville Times here once again. Now, tonight we have the band Ageless Summoning, who are a Scottish old school death metal band. And tonight we've got vocalist Ali and we have bassist Derek. The rest of the band are too camera shy, so it just means that we can take the mickey out of them. So I'm most welcome to do that, and we will do that. So, how are you two guys doing? It's been a wee while since I've seen you, Derek, and it's nice to finally meet you, Ali. So, how are you guys doing? It must be exciting times.
Hi, well, cheers to meet you, Ricky. Thanks for having us. And yeah, just very pleased. Our album's out in about 4 weeks, I think. So it's been a long time coming, but yeah, very pleased it's due soon. So
Yeah, we'll certainly talk about the time that it's taken to get this out there through the nature of my questions. So, but when doing my research for this interview, I didn't really find interviews for the band. So I thought I would ask, since 100 other people haven't asked, how did Ageless Summoning come into being? Whose idea was it to form the band, and how easy or difficult was it to get the right members in?
you want to answer it, Derek, or
I suppose there's always going to be two different perspectives, but I would say for me it was, well, I suppose for everyone, but the idea of it came about was actually when the majority of us were actually at the Netherlands Death Fest in 2016, and it basically myself, Ali, Hamish, the drummer, and the guitarist Greg were just there to see obviously the bands at Netherlands Death Fest, and we were all staying at the same place,
Yeah,
like a sort of like a Airbnb type thing, and we were there for the weekend. And during that time, the chat came about. You know, we liked a lot of the same stuff and a lot of the same thing. And basically, by the end of that weekend, the four of us agreed to sort of start a band, even though one of the guys, Greg, he stays down in Bristol. We thought, you know, we can make this work, and that was kind of the way it came about. So it was like the start of 2016, I think February 2016 at Netherlands Death Fest was where the chat started, and that's where it all came about, you know.
was it over a few beers, or was it a few other substances since you were in the Netherlands?
Yeah, oh yeah, I think it was a few things. Yeah, I think beer was a big part of it though. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think it was just good times. I think it was just good times to just listen to a lot of good bands. From what I remember, like it was just a packed weekend. We saw so many bands, and I think that just seeing all that just obviously inspired us to be like, yeah, we should definitely be doing something like this, you know.
yeah. Was it something, Ali, for you that you'd always wanted to do, or was it just because of this conversation? Yes, I'm in this, or was it a kind of you wanted to pay homage to old school death metal, but you never really had the opportunity to before?
well, I mean, because me, Derek, and Hamish were in a sort of Gorgut style, slow mid-paced death metal band called the Catalepsy. I joined in like 2010. I think Derek, you joined us at 11 or 12. So we'd done that and it just broken up the year before. So just kind of wanting to play death metal again. And then we'd actually, I think one of our first gigs, we played with Neuroma, which is Greg's old bands. And Greg had seen us as well when we'd been on tour. So we all kind of knew each other.
Yeah,
And as Derek's saying, we just had such a laugh and just talking about loving the same albums. And I think at that time, around about 2015, there was a lot of like very kind of sort of occult influenced death metal. It was very much like that kind of ritualistic stuff. And, you know,
yeah,
that's cool. But at the time, we were saying, you know, we've never really heard anyone do what we were talking about doing. Obviously, a big influence is Gateways, which, you know, that's my mouse mat, you know. So it's an important album to me. But basically, yeah, we had a laugh and we thought, let's do it. And yeah, we were just at first it just sounded, you know, a few beers and you're just talking nonsense. But by the end of the weekend, we were just gonna just go for it. And I think, yeah, for me, I think all of us sort of felt a bit like we wanted to do something where I think a lot of the projects we've done are maybe a bit more challenging. Like I think a Catalepsy was a pretty niche band.
yeah.
You know, it wasn't exactly something you could headbang to. So and different things that we've done, which are maybe a bit more out there. So we just
I'm just
wanted to
glad
do
I didn't have
something
to
which
play
was,
that band on my radio show because I would have been fucked.
yeah, that's it. Everyone would turn off. But yeah, we just wanted to play those big riffs and just, I mean, obviously we hadn't weren't written anything at that point, but the idea of doing something like that. So yeah, it was just it just sort of came from those 2 drunken days. So
cool. And you're definitely right, though. There is definitely like an old school resurgence, and long may that continue, because that's the form of music that I like the most, and especially in Scotland as well. There's a hell of a healthy scene in the last few years, So I'm hoping that Ageless Summoning will also take it to the next level as well. So we shall see. We shall see. But you're about to release your debut album, Corrupting the Untempled Plane. Now, see what I just said there about saying names on the radio? Can you not have made it a wee bit simpler for me, please? But yeah, so Corrupting the Untempled Plane on July the 21st. So how does it feel to finally release it after all the blood, sweat and tears that you put into it? Could it have been released 2019, for example? Was it already before COVID and shit like that? So what's been happening?
Yeah, I'd say I was going to say, it was funny, we were just talking about this before, actually. A lot of the album was actually pretty much done and dusted, like written wise, by like 2019. And stuff, like, because we started at the start of 2016, and then the first thing we did was we worked towards the demo.
That was 2018, wasn't it?
And that was 2018, so even that took a little bit of time to put together, to put the 2 tracks. And then after that, there was still more of the other tracks happening in the background, and that went on into 2019. I'd say at the very end of 2019, or maybe the very start of 2020. By that point, the album was pretty much written, and everything was put together for that. And then obviously just the way things happened with COVID as well. But at that point as well, we did have a different guitar player in the band, who's no longer in the band. His name's Hamish Maguire. He, a lot of people might know him from his old band Laceration. And he's done a few other different projects and stuff. And he was actually just recently in Iniquitous Savagery as well, doing vocals for them. But he was in the band for actually a few years. We never actually played a gig with him. The band didn't do any shows until last year. But he was in the band during that time, like about 2017, 2018. And he was the one that was putting the songs together with us. And, when we were sorting things out, because Greg wasn't traveling up from Bristol to jam with us, because it was just obviously not ideal, from there, from Bristol up to Scotland. So we would do things with Hamish, and it was just spaced out through a couple of years. But during that time, we managed to get everything put together, and then it just got put together, and it was all done, like I say, by about the end of 2019. But then, like I say, COVID hit, but I think we still managed to get things. I remember, like, maybe later on in 2020, I think Hamish McIntosh, the drummer, he was the first one to start recording drums. And I think round about that point, we were starting to see that maybe things weren't working out with Hamish Maguire, the guitar player.
Okay.
So we made the switch round about then, I believe, at the end of 2020. While the album was still, getting recorded and stuff, we made the change to bring Rory on, and then we just recorded into 2021. I did my bass parts at that point. Then I think Ali you must have done your vocals, Ali, maybe at the end of 2020. I'm guessing something like that. And then, like I say, but it's the reason I think it's took a few years to get to where it is now. It's just because there's been such a backlog again with COVID, and I think just how busy the label is that we're on. The label's just had a lot of releases, so unfortunately, there's just been a queue, and the queue's been longer than we expected.
Yeah. Well, 2 questions on that. Are you guys sick to death of the songs already because you've listened to them for the last 5 years? And does that mean then that there's a possibility that you've already looked at tracks for the next release? Or is it too early to say?
I wouldn't say that we're fed up of the tracks, but it is time to move on, though. We've definitely got other things on the go, and there's definitely things in the background going on and stuff. But at the same time, we know, like, we need to play these songs that are getting released, So when we played last year, we played a few shows last October. We played in Edinburgh, Newcastle, and London, and it was great playing the songs live. So And it should be good still playing for a little bit, you know. But at the same time, yeah, you don't want to be, you don't want to have your set list being quite predictable, you know. So especially at that stage, so I think we're definitely working towards other things as well, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, Derek. Thanks for that, Derek. But Ali, see how you had that wee bit extra time. Did you revisit any of the songs and think, do you know something, we could tweak this here? I want to do this part. I want to change the vocal parts or anything.
I mean, like, it's funny you say, because I suppose, you know, we were listening to them over and over again for a few years, and it does get old. The thing that's been great is, as Derek's saying, like playing them live, you see how people react and which tunes, you know, they take to or whatever. So, and I think as well, Epoch of Soul's just been announced, and the response that's had is kind of changed my feeling around it. You know, you if it's too long and you're sitting on it, you maybe sometimes start doubting it, picking it apart. So people are into it, and that's great. But yeah, to be honest, I was like, let's just forge it on with more stuff. So to be honest, we've got more than enough for another album. So all sitting. So at the moment now, it's just trying to like hone that. And so yeah, it's been trying to make up for lost time, because I think we all maybe feel a bit like, you know, we're a bit behind, so we've got to catch up.
Yeah. Well, we'll try and release before 2030, the same time that it's taken to release this debut. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely, the next one should hopefully be a lot quicker. You know, it shouldn't be I don't think there'll be another 5-year wait, you know.
Yeah. But see how you'd only released a demo before in 2018. Was there ever thoughts of it being just like an EP, or like releasing a 4 or 5 track EP? Or was it always going to be, the debut release was always going to be an album?
It was always going to be an album. So like Hamish, the drummer, he kind of sort of came up with a sort of loose concept. So we had this whole idea of like, you know, there's a kind of story, if you like, but you know, there's a kind of thing through it. So there was always a sense of putting that together. So I mean, the demo was not together really quickly. It was like, it feels like it was pulled together in a weekend. Like you know, I think Greg wrote the first song in about 5 minutes, and then Hamish had something sort of hanging about. So that kind of, once those tunes were there, that kind of sort of set a sense of what we were going to do. But I think we all wanted to put a full length together rather than an EP, like it to be like a, you know, that sort of more immersive, or that's what we're trying to do, more immersive kind of thing. So, but yeah, I think we're always going to try and stick with albums. So
yeah, I was quite happy that you said that you'd done a few gigs last year, because I was wondering if because you do have other bands in the go. I was wondering if Ageless Summoning was just going to be like a recording project, but it looks as if it might not be your full-time band, but it's certainly a project that you want to play it to the masses, you know.
Absolutely, it is quite hard. Like, you know, not just sort of locations, but just, you know, in terms of the usual stuff, life and families and different commitments and jobs and all this. And I mean, would love to be doing it as much as possible, but you know, it's difficult with different things people have going on. So I mean, you know, at some point, just to even get the demo, just to even get the album done, just to even play live, because at the beginning we were like, we'll never play live, we'll never be able to do it. But you know, we didn't do much of a tour, but it was great. It was better than nothing. But I hope we can do more in the future. It'd be great if down the line we can actually put some serious time aside and actually cover some distance. That'd be great.
Well, I'm sure with the contacts that you have in the Scottish death metal scene, you'll be able to get plenty of shows. So, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing that. But I'm going to ask a simple question. Why did you call the album Corrupting the Intemporal Plane? Did you have like a list of different titles for the album, and somebody just said this? I know it's the name of a song, but what made you choose that one?
So I was reading some Robert E. Howard. I lived in my wife's Canadian, and I was living in Vancouver. I was in a place called New Westminster in 2019, and all I did in my spare time was listen to the demo track. So I was just immersing myself. I had a lot of lyrics already, but I was just sort of finishing it off. But I saw the word "intempled," and I was like, that's cool, you know. And it sort of tied into some of the themes, but that sort of track, you know, the kind of, I suppose one of the overarching themes of the album is this idea of kind of overturning something, or having this kind of, this sort of rebellious figure, this sort of pulling together, without getting too deep into the stuff we were pulling together. But it's like, you know, this otherworldly sort of thing where it's, you know, and I was inspired by someone like Robert E. Howard and that sort of fantasy writing, but trying to pull in sort of bigger themes as well. So it's kind of, as I was saying, Hamish had sort of laid out this kind of idea, but the whole sort of crux of the album is that's what it's about. It's about it's like a kind of like a it's like a infiltration or something like that. It's kind of like taking something over, tainting something. Yeah, that's terrible description. Sorry, but that's where I got it from. So.
No, I mean, just try and hear me say it on Thursday night in my radio show when I play it on Thursday. So just, so thanks for that. But for those that are eagerly awaiting the album then, how would you say Corrupting compares to your early material? Now, the early material is obviously only just like your demo. Do you think you've found the sound that you've been looking for with the album, or even the newer material? I mean, I've listened to the album, not a lot, but I have listened to it, and it's obvious who your influences are. But with the newer stuff, are you wanting to get away from that, or are you always going to pay homage to Gateways, for example?
I think, I mean, I was saying this to Derek just earlier, but like with getting all the tracks together, especially with like Rory joining, because he joined late, and the leads that he brought to it are like relatively new.
Some of the leads, by the way.
Yeah. I had the same reaction, to be honest. Like, that was very like exciting about where it can kind of go. So the album's been a bit of a case of like, right, I think for all of us thinking it kind of inform what we're going to do next. And I mean, it's obvious. We've made it pretty obvious what the influences are, and that's, and I don't think, I think it just comes naturally. I think in terms of where maybe some of the newer songs, it's moving into more of a kind of slightly more abstract territory, but I think we'll always want to try and balance, like, we still want those big riffs, you want those kind of like odd off-kilter sort of wonky grooves. That's what we always kind of want, in that hugeness. But what's cool is everybody just brings in their own spin on it, and I think naturally it'll kind of change. But I mean, I wouldn't be particularly fussed if every album kind of sounded a bit like Gateways. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I did actually wonder a couple of times whether you had a guest soloist, Trey, playing on a couple of songs for you. I was like, bloody hell, man. There's some leads. But Derek, how did you manage to bring in your Motley Crue influences into the newer material? Did you want to bring, because of COVID and things like that, all we could really do was listen to music and discover new music and things. Were you going to be bringing anything new to the Ageless Summoning table? Like,
just like my input of it would be when we're putting the album together. Like, I wrote one song on the album as well, so everyone had some sort of input to some degree, I think, at least like that. I think all the other guys had like several songs. But for me, I would say because of some of the bands that, obviously, like what the band's based on, for the instrument, that for what I'm doing with the bass, like some of these bands, maybe like bass wasn't like a dominant feature in those bands, because maybe it was just like the vocalist was doing the bass, and maybe the bass was just doing more like the simple root notes, for example, just something a bit more straightforward. But if you're playing a band like that where you've got a separate guy playing the bass and stuff, that you can maybe more concentrate on that, and maybe try and do stuff to more match up with the guitars is doing, or definitely try and add like an actual, the layer of bass to the song, and just trying to add different like characteristics to it and stuff, so so I definitely just tried to play like the style I do, and just. How
easy or difficult was it to keep for yourself, for example, Derek? Easy or difficult was it to keep Scordatura out of Ageless Summoning? Like, I don't know whether like influences, like whether you would play that in Scordatura, or whether you knew, like, I'm doing Ageless Summoning, so I'm just going to concentrate on this kind of music, or how did you keep it apart?
Well, I think like for the type of music I do anyway, I've always got my main influences, and just trying to apply it to whatever it is. I mean, at the end of the day, I suppose Scordatura and Ageless Summoning are both death metal bands, but just two quite very different styles, which is quite, one's a bit more maybe a bit more on the dark side or whatever, the evil side that plays more of this thing, and maybe one band's a bit more like sort of in your face sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's maybe one way to look at it. But the influence of what I do is still there. It's still that sort of like try and play that sort of high finger attack, you know, and try and make the bass try and cut through to some extent, you know, because I feel like just like in death metal, I feel like the bass can just do such an amazing thing. You know, I feel like it's definitely like the what needs to make the guitar and the drums.
9 times out of 10, you don't hear the bass in death metal.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it depends on the recordings and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you listen to this, if you listen to some of the old like recordings in the 90s, sometimes I don't know if it's just the way engineers didn't know how to level it, and sometimes the bass ends up being really loud. But that's what makes those albums sound so good, you know. So, but yeah, like I say, I think for the most part, like the same sort of thing is what I do, like the same sort of style, but. I would say there was more room on this band to do more like big chords, that because I think there's quite a lot of that with this sort of style, and the bass can do the big sort of chords to complement the guitar as well, you know. So different things, maybe like big sort of like heavy plucking bits and stuff like, you know. With Scordature, it might be a little bit more faster and precise to some degree. So there was a little bit different. It's kind of the same, but still little bits a little bit different.
Would it be fair to say then you feel a wee bit more freer when you're playing the Ageless Summoning?
I would say so in a way, because the two guitars are doing two different things. When you listen to it, you realise if you listen to the album, there's a bit of like almost like, because the two guitars are doing two different things, it's almost like there was a bit of freedom there for me what to do, because I could either just try and put something else different underneath it, or I could try and match up what maybe what either the guitarist is doing. And that's what I did throughout the recording, and even just like when I was learning the songs, sometimes when I was listening to it, I was like, right, I'll try and do what this guitar is doing, and sometimes I'll try and do what this guitar is doing, you know. So there was a little bit more like options what to do. And like I say, because there was a bit more like the open, you know, like bit more breathe, bit parts to breathe, you know, with some, you know, some sort of like some sort of chord or something like that. It gave the bass a bit more freedom, something else to do. So yeah, but I mean, not that Scordature is limited by any means, not like that. But yeah, I think with Ageless Summoning, yeah, there was maybe a little bit more creative freedom, you know.
Cool. You better watch, Ali. He's going to turn into Les Claypool or Primus. Cool. Thanks very much for that, guys, again. But Ali, what I don't know, and I'm desperately trying to find it, where was it recorded? Who produced, mixed, and mastered the album for you then?
So the drums and the vocals were recorded by our friend Guillaume, who does Sonorous Studio. He actually was a guitar player in a Catalepsy. Okay. So was it Malcolm Abu at Dalmarnock Studios?
My friend Malcolm Abu, he has a couple of different bands he does as well. He has his own band called, I think it's called The Human Abomination, and he's also playing in a new band. I think it's called Visceral Slime, I think they're called. But he helped me track the bass, you know. He spent a couple of days with me and just helped me track the bass and stuff like that. So it was really good to work with him. He was a really super guy to work with, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, Ali, carry on.
Yeah, and just I think otherwise, Rory did his guitars, just recorded it home, sent to Greg, and Greg did absolutely everything else.
Yeah, Greg put everything together. I think once it was all done, he did the sort of mix and stuff like that, and then he would send it to us, and then we would just listen back and then just give our thoughts on it and stuff. And it just went back and forth from there. So for the most part, it was done, apart from like with help from Guillaume and Malcolm, for the most part, it was just all done internally. You know?
Yeah. If you had the budget, I suppose you would love no more than to send it to Dan Swano at Unisound or something like that. But at the moment, you're kind of like, as so many other bands in the Scottish scene, it's like DIY or die. You know, you've got those kind of aesthetics, like do it yourself. But if it's a formula that works for you, then just keep on going with it.
Absolutely, I would definitely say so. I think you've got to, you know, studio time these days is just expensive, you know. So you've got to try and make most of the budget that you have, you know. And I think these days there's just there's things you can do to do it. And sometimes you can get too carried away, and maybe the recording starts to sound a bit sterile or whatever. But I think the way we've done it, it still sounds there's a good live vibe to it, you know, and it still sounds like an actual recording, you know. But
yeah,
again, just because working with Guillaume and with Greg put it together, they know what to do, you know. They know what to put together and whatnot. They know the vision, you know.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks very much for that, guys. Is there anything about the way that you recorded the album that you would do differently going forward to your next release?
I think just the one thing is we're hoping to do, because we were based a lot of demos, and then we just kind of, a lot of it was a surprise. So when I recorded the vocals, that was the first time anyone heard them.
Okay.
And I think like with doing the live gigs, and we got a chance we didn't get much time to jam. To be honest, the whole band played for a total of, I think, 2 hours before we played our first gig. So we'd never actually all been in the same room. But I think that's the one thing we're hoping to do, to get some more jams and play some of the new songs, and just try and, because obviously it's a different thing if you're in the room and you get a sense of what to change and what works. So there was an element where maybe it was a bit disjointed. So I hope that like going forward, the stuff that we do in the next one, maybe we just get a bit more of a chance to work on that stuff together and have a bit more input, and like, you know, changing patterns or rhythms or whatever it is. So that's really the only thing. But
yeah.
Was
it just like time scales, like the drums were done first or something like that, and then the guitars, or in an ideal world, how would you like to do it? So you would like a couple of weekends maybe and do the recording together?
I think it's like, I mean, because, you know, as I say, when Rory turned up, like everything was kind of ready for him to work on. So a lot of it was just, we didn't have everyone in place. And I think like, I mean, it'd be great to just, I mean, I'd love it if we could just have regular practices, you know, everyone's just around the corner or something like that. But you know, it's just working with what we can. But a lot of it was just figuring it out, because it's been just a learning process as we go. So you know, as much time as possible to be able to do stuff like that. But you know, as you say, you just DIY, you adapt and make it work. It's like whatever it takes to get it done, really. So I mean, if we have to just do it remote, that's what we'll do. So you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair play. Right, thanks very much for that, guys. But going back to the recording of the album, how was it for you all? I mean, did it take you a good few goes before you were happy with your performance? Was there a song that you had to record over and over again? I mean, I'm maybe looking at you, Ali, as well. With you being the vocalist in 10 tracks, that's a hell of a lot of damage that's done to your vocal cords. How were you at the end of the recording process, for example?
I mean, like compared to when we did the demo, it was just knocked out in one sesh. So it was Guillaume who recorded that, and I said to him for the album, I said, I want this to be absolutely brutal. Like I don't want there to be, if any vocal sounds slightly weak, we're redoing it. So I said to him, I was like, so I've really pushed. So I did like kind of ended up doing 2 sessions. So I did one where I maybe wasn't quite ready, and it was just I was having to. Like I think it was around Christmas, so I'd probably been not living so clean. So it was just So basically that was it. I just wanted it to be as brutal as I could be, and I said if anything sounds even slightly off, we're gonna come and do it again. So that was talking about being able to do it with Guillaume. Like it was a bit more time. It wasn't time pressured, like, you know, being in the studio where it's like you've got a day and you've just got to knock them out. So we just would do it over just evenings. So I tended to do like maybe 3-4 hours at a time. So I was lucky to have that.
Who did you do them?
So, pardon?
Where did you do the vocals?
In Guillaume's studio, which is basically like a room in his flat. So it's easy just to knock around. So, you know, so basically like we had the time to do it. So like, and that was it. It was a case of just being having just really high standard on it. Like if it wasn't as best as I could do. So, and it was generally okay, but a lot of it was because of the nature of how it was put together. I was experimenting as I was going. So we did change some patterns and change some things when I was doing it. It's pretty much all okay, just trying out different things. But by the time I did them all in order. By the time I got to the last track, like there was quite a few takes and a bit of frustration trying to get probably just like the last line, because I was just pretty tired. But I'm glad we did, like, because we really, I didn't want to turn in anything that wasn't the best I could do. So.
Well, to be fair, I spoke to last week Al of Coffin Mulch, and he broke his ribs when Kelly scored a last-minute equaliser. My response to that was, well, there's not many of them, but he broke his ribs. So he was like, he done the vocals in pain. So people just don't underestimate how much it takes out of you doing vocals, and especially on the live front as well. Like if you're doing a 30, 40-minute set, do you have like a routine before you go on stage?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody's different. I'm quite like I've got certain things I do, like things I eat, things I don't eat, things I drink, things I don't drink, and I warm up, warm down. Like I do a lot of like I don't really get problems with it. Like I've figured it out. I've been doing it for like 20 years, so I mean I figured out how to do it. Like so, I mean it means I just know what I need to do. So for myself, like it's just as long as I drink plenty of water, warm up properly, I'm good to go. Sometimes it's better than others, but yeah, and a big part for me as well, if I'm doing gigs the next night, is just making sure I warm down as well. So
I know some vocalists use things like Vocal Zone. Do you use anything like that, or do you just look after your voice as much as you can?
I just like, as I say, like, I mean, I just know it's like things like I don't drink for a play, and like, if I'm being sensible, I don't drink too much
So you want
afterwards
to
as
be the
well.
opening band so you can have the rest of the night to yourself.
Exactly. That's it. So, but yeah, it's just stuff like that, and like just knowing how eating certain things can affect it. Like, I mean, everybody's different. Some folk are like, I don't warm up and I can just do what you can do. I mean, for me, that's just what affects what I do. So, but I've ever since I was like a teenager, I started reading up on it and just trying to just change things because I wanted to just do the best I could with it, I suppose. So I've never really had any problems. I've never sort of blown anything like hurt myself or anything like that, like touch wood. But just I'm quite strict with stuff. So
how was the guy that recorded it for you? Was like, Ali, you can do better than that. Get a grip. And was there a particular song, a particular line that you done half a dozen times before he was happy with it?
I think I mean it was Guillaume was like one of my best friends, and I said to him, I was like, I want you to be absolutely brutal with me, like just keep pushing me, let's go. So, and what I want is if it gets frustrating, do it again, do it again, do it again, because at that point, if you get angry, you get a good sort of performance. I think as far as tunes, it was probably Derek's tune, which is the fastest one for me vocally, which I'm not. I like it slow. I'm used to things slow. So it was a bit of a learning curve because I hadn't at that point done so much fast stuff. So that was I had to get the fitness up and actually try and learn a slightly different technique, because a lot of what I do is as much power as possible, but that's like try and get long runs. But to try and get that kind of very like staccato type stuff, I had to kind of change up what I do a little bit.
Did he write the lyrics for that song as well?
Nah,
because what I was going to say was, if he wrote a riff and it was like 3 seconds long, but you were to say 10 words in your line, you're like, who do you think I am?
Yeah, totally.
No, you had the freedom to do all the lyrics you wanted, So I never had anything like that. I just wrote the riffs, the music, or whatever, and just let Ali have creative freedom to do what he wanted to do.
Well, we're going to talk about the lyrics in a minute. But Derek, how was the recording session for you? Was it quite easy, quite relaxed? It was done in a couple of takes, and that was it the weekend.
It was, that was like I was saying before. It was Malcolm that came down to the studio. It was basically done at the studio where rehearsed with Scott the Chair. It was just done there. We went in there for 3 days, just built up, just made a little sort of mini studio of things, just got the speakers out and everything, and just had everything set up for about 3 days. And just went in and just did everything there. And I think and it was spread out. It wasn't like we spent the entire 3 days consistently, but it was just spread out over a 3-day period, just doing the songs. I think I'd maybe do like 3 songs one day, then 4 songs the next, and maybe 3 the following day, or something like that, and that was it. It was all done within like 3 days,
Cool. Well, to be fair, you're just the bassist. It's not as if we're going to hear you anyway in death metal. So
Exactly, so
you could have played exactly what you wanted.
It's exactly so. If anything, 3 days is probably like 2.5 days too much, So, but I'm just that kind of guy. I feel even if you can't be heard, you've got to try and at least try and put something into it.
I think you should be a vocalist. Do you know that? I think you should be a vocalist, Derek. You just
I can do a little bit of vocals. Over the years, I've been able to do a little bit of death metal vocals, but the problem is for me personally, it's trying to do it and play an instrument at the same time. It's just I can't do it. It's just too hard. But if I ever got myself in a situation, maybe could do vocals for a band, it'd be nice to.
Yeah. Well, we never know. Never know. It was actually something I was going to keep for later on. Like, I know there's 5 members in the band, but Ali, I know that you do the vocals, but you're quite open to like one of the guitarists coming in at times, or is that something that you're going to have to do in the live front?
Well, so I actually because I basically kept one vocal tone all the way through. So
yeah,
I actually had I sort of arranged other vocal parts, and I sent that through for Greg to do. And we were talking about Derek doing some stuff as well, but Greg actually, there's a bit more of him on the demo, but the way he did the vocal on the album, he actually really he dialed it back, which at first it took me a bit of convincing, but now I quite like it because it's quite subtle. So his stuff comes, but the way I originally imagined it would be some more voices, but the way I decided to keep it was just to have that one kind of. So I'm definitely open to it. It's just whatever works for the tune, really. But yeah, hopefully we'll get Derek on some stuff.
Who knows? It might be coming out in the new material that you've been talking about. Who knows? Maybe there's a surprise that Derek doesn't know about yet.
I don't know what I'm in for yet. This will be interesting.
Well, let's talk about the visual side of the album. Have you thought about doing a video for any of the releases of the album?
Do you mean well, because we've got like Rory made a sort of a video where he managed to kind of, I don't know how he did it, but he got the album artwork to move, and that was cool. And definitely something like that. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm up for trying anything you can make it work. I mean, if we had the chance, like, why not try and do like a performance video or something? I mean, we'd probably want it to be not such a direct thing like looking at the camera or anything like that. Like, it would have to be more of an atmospheric type thing. But it's yeah, if we got the opportunity, why not give it a try?
Yeah. Again, obviously, it's because you're not all within a 5-mile radius or anything like that. But it would be cool to, I don't know. I know that if you had one again, the budget and the location to, I don't know, all sing in a forest or something like that, with the lights behind you and all the rest of it, you would do it. But time and money.
Yeah, there might be something. I don't know. I suppose we could maybe look into it and see. But yeah, maybe so. Even if it wasn't for this album, even if it was something to work towards the next album, it'd be good to get maybe some sort of video put together for the band. I think.
Well, who knows?
Maybe it's long overdue.
Who knows? I actually kept this for the second last question. I'm going to keep it there, and I'll just say this and then don't answer it. Maybe with the backing of the record label, you might get the extra support that you need, but who knows? But I'm glad. I don't know if there's somebody in the band that has that kind of visual idea, like for a song like Retribution Eternal or something like that. Somebody's got like an idea of a video or something. Who knows?
I suppose I'm not too sure. I suppose that's one thing we've never really talked about in the band, is like more like obviously the visual and the artwork and just the general theme and stuff. But in terms of like video and things like that, it's never really been a thing. But again, I suppose maybe we didn't rule it out by any means. I think if anything, we just like the one thing we just really want to do. We probably had it before with lots of people. We just want to really, if anything, concentrate on some really good live shows.
Yeah.
And if people take anything away from that, then so be it.
I heard you say the word artwork, and I was like, "Don't you dare talk about the artwork, because that's my next question." You would have heard me, boy. You would have heard me.
Okay, fair enough.
But let's talk about the artwork for a second. You got a huge artist in the name of Paolo Gerardi to do the cover art for you. So how did you get in touch with him? And when it came to like explaining what you wanted as a front cover, did you give him the whole album? Did you give him the lyrics? Or did Ali, for example, did you say, this is what's in my head, can you draw this?
So, well, it's funny because when we formed a band on that weekend at Netherlands Death Fest, we said, we would love Paolo Girardi. That's the artist we want. So that's who we.
So what was it? What was the covers that said we need one by him? What was the covers that you saw?
I mean, the first one that sticks in my head is that one he did for Four Phantoms for Bellwitch, not death metal, but very cool. And you know, I mean, he's just because the funny thing about him, like he's known as a bit of a character, and he's got the videos of him, and you know, and that's great. But he's like a real pro as well. Like he's like all that stuff is fun or whatever. But talking to him, he's very very professional. But so we'd said like we want to. That's who we would want, and that was felt like a bit of a pipe dream at that point. But we were at the point where, you know, Dark Descent were happy for us to go with Paolo. I messaged them and I said, you know, this is what we're looking for. But he said, you know, whoever I'm doing art for, I must have a sketch. He says, doesn't matter how childish it is, but I need something to work from. So I was like, right. So I did. I don't know. I should have brought it along, but it's just the worst thing you've ever seen. I think it's on my phone somewhere. I don't think it's to hand. Sorry, but. It's terrible anyway. Just imagine, like, you know, it's like a 4-year-old.
Oh, you can send me it and I'll put it in the article.
All right, I'll find it. But so I did my best, and I was like, look, this is terrible, but it's meant to be portals in Temple Plain or whatever. And he knocked it out in like a day and a half, honestly. Wow. And it was better than any of us could imagine. And I think actually he messaged me to say, I think he's got the most response online from any other art that he's done. So I mean, you know, before just people were interested. You know, at the very least, if they buy the album, we've got something good to put on our wall if they don't like the music. But yeah, couldn't have been luckier with that album cover. It's just amazing, absolutely.
Artwork's sick. It's definitely a good artwork.
Yeah, but it's amazing how. I mean, I don't know if you had the budget, you would approach Dan Seagrave. I don't know. But it's amazing how artists just know exactly what's in your head, what it is that you want, and they just give me a canvas and I'll do it. A day and a half, I cannot believe that. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was doing sort of Instagram stories, so you could see it sort of coming. But it was like, I don't know if he just sort of takes time to think or whatever, but I mean, one of the best out there for sure.
So see, when you got it back, were you like, that's exactly it, do not touch it? Or did you ask him to tweak it a wee bit? No.
We were just like, absolutely perfect. We love it so much, we were like, we're not putting anything on it. So we're like, we're not ruining his art with our logo. So it's just the artwork, you know? So
yeah. I think, I don't think the logo's on the cover. I think it's just on the spine, you know?
That's amazing. Well, fair play. And again, if... when it comes to recording a new album, you've got the recording process. You kind of like each other. I kind of see that in the video so far. And you've got your artist, you know, so everything's there for you at the moment. But what I would like to know is, how were the songs constructed for the album? Are there the main songwriters to the songs, or did all members contribute? And how did you share your ideas? Like, do you have your own WhatsApp group and you'd send MP3s to one another? How did you do it all?
So I think for that first album, Greg and Hamish McIntosh wrote most of the tunes. Like they did.
Yeah, they wrote the most.
We've got this. We've re-recorded the songs from the demo, and then both of them had an extra couple of tunes. Hamish Maguire, who was with us, as Derek was saying, you know, he actually wrote one of the tunes on the album. So he was, you know, when we parted ways, he's very kind. We said, we love your tune. Can we keep it? So there's a tune on there, Among the Worms, that Hamish wrote.
Do you know, I like that. There's no bad blood or anything like that. He's still one of the brothers, you know.
Oh absolutely. Yeah. Nah, it was only just, I think it was just a case, you know, Hamish is now like I think he's a professional bodybuilder. He looks great. Like he's just thrown himself into that. It's a whole new life. So, you know, moving on to something else. So absolutely, like it was totally amicable, totally understand, you know, and obviously as well at the time of COVID and stuff, everyone's got stuff going on. So so in terms of, he wrote that one, Derek wrote the tune Toward the Fractal Absolute, and then the rest were just Greg and Hamish. And I think I might have had a hand in writing the sort of little segue instrumental. That's my claim to fame, which is about 30 seconds. But so it's, I mean, very, very sort of, again, it's just kind of sending demos back and forth, and just sort of just MP3 sent by email and stuff like that. But as I say, it wasn't really until Rory came on board, because I mean, Rory did everything in like 2 weeks. He learned the album and wrote all the solos and recorded them all in 2 weeks. Just incredible, just ridiculous, because we waited for years and years and years, and we were like, when's this going to be done? He joined 2 weeks later. We've got a finished album, so it was great. But I think with him coming in and he really changed a lot of the tunes. And as you say, like I really love the leads on the album, and I like the way they're kind of a bit more buried as well. But I think it'll be really interesting to see how we're going to write or going, with the next stuff as well, because now we can bring in some of Rory's songs and get a chance to sort of work together like that. But yeah, it was a bit more kind of like disjointed, I suppose, because it just had to be, because we're long distance, just learning, figuring it out.
Yeah. So. Was there ever a time where it was just like a brick wall and just think, we don't know if this is going to be working? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe happened a couple of times, but again, just because just general life and just other things as well, it was just hard to juggle.
And it's funny how just one like Rory coming in, for example, has just gave everybody a massive lift.
Yeah, I think when that change happened, I think that was in 2020. I think in the midst of COVID, I think it was. When that change happened, that definitely helped change things, because like Ali says, like, yeah, I remember within a couple of weeks he was sending like his takes of I was listening to the solos, and I was just like, wow, I was just like, this is excellent, and this is exactly what we're going for. So even though the timing might not have been right, but we brought in the right guy, and
yeah,
like I say, Hamish left a song with us, so he's left something behind with us. So his inputs on the album as well. So
no, fair play. But there was no I don't know if there's a huffy one in the band, or there's always one that's hard to please, or how did you negotiate what goes out or stays in a song? I don't know if there's like blood on the walls and fights in the studio and stuff like that. It's all plain sailing with you guys.
I don't remember. I don't know, Ali, unless you might remember it differently, but from what I remember, a lot of it just came through quite naturally. Like, it was all done through like I think a Facebook chat for a lot of discussion, and then we would maybe send things back and forth on maybe like one of the, one of the like Dropbox websites or something like that to share, file sharing thing, and just listen to even just bits back and forth. And from what I remember, I don't remember being like, this isn't right. Everyone was always just I believe 99% of the time, everyone was like, yep, this sounds cool. This is what we're going for. And I don't remember being like much like, a lot of debating back and forth. There might have been maybe some suggestions, or maybe play this riff longer, maybe play, only so many bars or whatever.
Yeah.
But nothing till like it was hitting a standstill and like we don't know what to do because two people couldn't agree. It was nothing like that, Not that I remember anyway.
I think we're all good friends, and we all like what we're like. This is music we like to do, so I think our tastes are all pretty matched. But I don't think there's anyone everyone's totally sound if you said, you know what, I don't like that, or change it about, So I mean, that's very open and saying like, I would say, obviously I'm not writing so much music or any of it, but if I'd say if you don't like these titles, or is it, I'll ask, So if everyone's sound with that, there's no ego issues like that, and I think we work really well together. So.
Am I right in saying, Ali, you're a guitarist as well?
I mean, I do a sort of extreme doom band, so I can play doom guitar, but I wish I could play that sort of death metal. I wish, but
it's not just a simple case of speeding up a wee bit.
I don't think so. It's maybe a bit more than that. Watching what Greg and Rory do, I only wish I could do that. But.
No, I was just wondering, like, because you're a guitarist as well, you may have contributed one or two riffs to the songs.
Well, I've poor Greg, like from 2019-20, I was sending Greg the worst demos you can imagine. Like, no idea what.
At 4 o'clock in the morning,
like humming stuff, like really, really bad riffs. He was like, "What is this? Like, there's no rhythm, no idea what I was doing." So I kept trying over and over again, but I finally managed to get something together. So we've got a tune which has got some of my riffs on it. So. But yeah, for a long time, I mean, nowadays people who actually know what they're doing can make really good demos and like, Reaper or whatever. But yeah, I was just awful stuff. I was sending them tabs with like no rhythm, just absolute rubbish. But I didn't give up, so I got some riffs in there at last. But, yeah.
So I hear what Derek's saying in his head. He's like, Ali, just stick to doom, mate. Just stick to doom. But Ali, you're going to be a center of attention again, I'm afraid. We kind of talk like, with you being the vocalist of the band, do you write all the lyrics, or do some of the members contribute to lyrics? And I was also wondering, like, what some of the lyrical themes of the album were.
Well, yeah, I mean, I write all the lyrics, and as I say, like I quite like to. I have done. I'm in other bands, and I have done quite a lot of projects, and like I'll try to kind of adjust what I'm doing, and I quite like it if I've got kind of almost like a brief, if you like. So like that's why I like it where Hamish had sort of ideas, and I would sort of draw upon that. So the whole idea is I did a bunch of light research, if you like, but looking at kind of different cultures and the idea of like apocalyptic stuff and just trying to draw like similar kind of themes. So that's kind of laced throughout it. And just trying to as well bring in like a very sort of otherworldly because the whole thing we're sort of trying to channel, I suppose, is that kind of like feeling of something ancient in some other dimension. And I wanted to have a lot of lines that were very like Steve Tucker type lines, the sort of like brutal lines, which are things like, I will reign supreme or stuff like that, stuff that's really fun to do. So bringing that in, and I didn't want to go too heavy on it and too specific because you just take from it what you want. But the other thing I tried to do was I would write songs from slightly different perspectives. So try and, it's maybe a group talking or an individual, just things like that. But, I also just think you can just get immersed in it and take from it what you want rather than it being too specific,
Two questions on that. Because I'm looking at Derek, right? See if Derek brings a line or a couple of lines or lyrics, for example, are you just like you're trying to bring what to the table? Or are you quite like these? And also, are you the kind of vocalist that you've always got a pad and a pen on you, and you just open the door and you walk down the street and you see things on the street and you take a note of it, and then you spend the rest of the night writing about it? Or what type of vocalist are you?
I mean, honestly, like sometimes with death metal, I find that lyrics aren't that important to people. I've always just been a lyrics guy. Like, I mean, when I was first getting into bands and stuff, I would read every single word on see the pullouts of like In Their Darkened Shrines and stuff. I would read all Carl Sanders' essays, all the lyrics. That's just, and I know that some people just can't be bothered with stuff like that. And that's always just been something I was very interested in. And I get it, like a lot of guys playing bands, they're not that interested. So, I'll send the guys my lyrics. I don't think anyone reads them. That's fine. That's fine.
Eric, but you're on there, you recorded. Do you read them?
I've looked at the lyrics, yeah. I look at the lyrics stuff, yeah. I've stuff, But I think Ali's been right. Maybe the average person might not pay attention as much, but it's definitely. I do anyway. Yeah, I've looked at a lot of the lyrics over the album and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But, I mean, I think it's just so in that way, it's just I've never had anyone come and say I've got ideas for it. But I do, if I'm honest, I like to have control over that. I like to kind of keep that as
I think if one of us did come to you, I think you would definitely welcome it. You wouldn't just, I know. I think you would be quite okay. Let's see what we can do, and you would try to understand. I don't think you would just push it away straight away. I think
because it's definitely a talent. I've said it a lot in my interviews. It's definitely a talent. You're not just talking about blood and guts and zombies and stuff like that. If you've got a message behind your lyrics, then it has to be written the right way and portrayed in the right way. So it's fair play to you, man. It's certainly something I can do.
Well, I think it's like it's serving the song, and it's like what works best for the music, and I think that always has to be any band you're in, like however you're approaching it, that's got to be, it's not about you, it's about what works best for the music. And in terms of what you're saying, I mean, I'm always writing stuff. Right, I like to write on my phone, but I like to write in pads as well. Like I've just always been doing that since I was a kid. So, I'm pretty quick at writing, but I think that's because I'm always doing stuff in the background.
You've usually got a notepad at the studio when we turn up. Yeah, you've always got, and there's usually a nice little wee.
Derek's pissed me off. I'm going to write about that.
Yeah, there's always a little drawing of some sort. But yeah, even like at the studio, he seems to bring out the lyrics and goes through it and stuff. And there's always certain pages you see him going through it and stuff. So
yeah, like I was speaking to Kendo of Brainbath in an interview not so long ago and stuff like that. He said he's already got 15 songs written. There was no musical parts. He's just written lyrics to 15 songs. But do you, Ali, wait until the songs are written and then you write the lyrics, or do you have like 10 songs ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's what I do usually, especially in the last few years. I like to have all the music, and I will tend to I'll listen to it and keep thinking about it, but I don't, certain lines might come to me, but I'll just sit down and do the whole thing. So I wrote the next album. I've got all the lyrics written, but I did them all in one go. It's like 10 songs or something, which is a bit weird because that's not what I maybe would have done like 10 years ago. But the way it is now, I just think I find myself, I just know when it's time. I just keep listening and I'm like, right now it's time to do it. So I just need to get myself a free night. And so far I've been pretty lucky. It all just comes out. So
yeah. So do you already portray yourself? Do you already see yourself singing these lyrics? The ones that are ready?
Yeah, I mean, listening, I'll get patterns in my head and words might come through. And I think when I was younger, I was maybe a lot more restrictive. And I kind of thought to myself, I'd pour over stuff and it really wouldn't be that good. It took me quite a few years to get to the point where I could just be free to let something go. So it just let it stream, come back later, and if it's not great, you can change it. And it took me a while just to get over into that space. So, and also sometimes you might just have a word which doesn't fit, but it sounds good. So that sort of thing is important too, because I suppose I used to think, well, that doesn't mean anything. Like, what is that? You're just saying nothing. But feeling more comfortable with that, getting more relaxed with that process, you can sort of change it later. And as long as it's, I think it's just, if it feels right, I know when I look at it, this matches. So yeah, now it's just quite it's quite easy. I know that sounds terrible, but it just sort of flows. So I don't know, but I guess if you do something long enough, it becomes a lot easier. So
Absolutely. Thanks very much for that. Right, thank you. But now, obviously, we talked about COVID and things like that. But now the world has opened its doors to playing live again, and as you talked about before, that you had played three gigs in various locations. What have you got in store for Ageless Summoning? Where do you see yourselves playing? Have you got anything lined up that you can talk about?
We're doing the Sonic Dissonance Fest in Edinburgh in September, 15, 16. We don't have anything other than that. We're just trying to focus on obviously helping along with the first release and some things around that, but really just focusing on the next album, as I say, sort of feeling like we're catching up. But I hope we can do some other stuff. Probably just because of the logistics and getting Greg up and stuff like that, we want to focus on maybe some festivals, but I also hope we can do once the album's out, hopefully not too long after that, maybe get another tour. Certainly UK. I mean, I would love to get out of the UK. I've never done that myself. So, but yeah, just at least something, even if it's just a few gigs a weekend or do whatever we can. So
it'll be even good just to play some gigs, once the album's out, because by that point, it's even been out for hopefully a couple of months or so. People have had time to listen to the songs and take them in, so when they come and see it live with the shows that we do, they know it and stuff, and so hopefully those shows are good. It'd be good, like I say, we've got the show in Edinburgh. And Ali was saying,
what's the venue at? What's the venue in Edinburgh? Do you know?
Well, it's actually, so I'm actually involved in putting it on, but it's across 3 venues. I don't know which one we're playing yet, but it's across Bannerman's, Legends, and Banshee Labyrinth. So we'll be in one of those, and I should probably organise that sooner rather than later.
Listen, you've just reminded what I need to do for my festival. But I was in the Banshee a couple of months ago for Metal to the Masses final, judging it, and the sound in that venue is intense. It was so loud, but it was so clear. Absolutely brilliant venue.
I love the Banshee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Banshee is good. Yeah.
But Derek's a man that's toured various festivals and underground venues all over Europe. So who knows where you can maybe take Ageless Summoning. It all depends on the timings of everybody in their lives and all the rest of it. But if you can get a week free, then just go for it.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I hope, like obviously, like I was saying before, once the album's out, hopefully that leads to some more opportunities to hopefully lead to something. Be good to get a few more shows like about the UK, and hopefully it'd be good to take it further afield. You know.
Yeah. Well, talking because if you're going to be playing gigs, and I imagine it's like a 30, 40 minute set, I don't know if you're going to play the whole album and a couple of covers or whatever like that. I'd imagine something from Gateways, don't know. But is there a particular song off the album that you're looking forward to playing? And I'll ask you, Ali, first. So if you've got all the 10 songs in the set list, which one are you most looking forward to playing personally? Ali, what's yours?
I think I really like doing Among the Worms, which is a shame, written by a member who's no longer with us. But I think when we did that, like people really like that. It's a very instant song. It's very similar to Where the Slime Live, but it's just got that sort of slimy groove. So, but yeah, that's one which like it's very instant. So because people really enjoy it, that's a lot of fun. So
yeah, fair play. Thanks very much, Ali. What about you, Derek? What song would you like to play live?
My favourite Ageless Summoning song is actually one of the ones for the demo. It's the one that Hamish wrote. It's called Salvation in Ash, and that's not to put anything down with the songs on the album, even though they came later and stuff, and they're great songs.
Is there a bass solo in it or something?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's just a great song, honestly. God, we'd all be crying if there was a bass solo in it. But no, it's just a great song. It's my favourite song. I just think it's just got such impact, and it was on the demo. And there's an album version of it that will be there. So the album version came out great. That was awesome. So. Yeah. And we played that live in the set last year. It was like the outro of the set. It's the outro of the album. Yeah, great song. I love it.
No, fair play. Thank you very much for that, guys. Listen, I appreciate your time for this interview. I like to do a deep dive and find out everything, especially since I don't know if this is the first real proper Ageless Summoning interview, and I take great honour in doing that. And I'd just like people to know everything about Ageless Summoning. But your CDs are going to be released by American label Dark Descent Records, which in itself is fucking huge. These guys have been the past roaster, for example. I'm thinking off the top, they had Decomposed way back in the day in the early 90s. So but they've got an incredible roster. They've got a good couple of hundred bands. But what are you hoping Dark Descent will do for you? How did it come about, and how's the relationship been so far?
So again, going back to Netherlands Death Fest, we all said at that fest the dream label for us would be Dark Descent. So wow, we were like, we want Paolo Gerardi to do the art. We want this to be on Dark Descent. And obviously you're just having a laugh or whatever and at the festival. But I remember I emailed. So the way it came about, I think a big part of it's to do with Guillaume. So when we did the demo, Guillaume got a couple of guys who do various websites. I think it was like Toilet of Hell and apologies, I've forgotten another name, what the other website is, but essentially we got a couple of reviews and there was a real spike of interest now, and it got like, and I think as well, obviously tragically has passed, but Trevor Sternad from Black Dahlia Murder was on it too, so like there was a little bit of a buzz for the demo, which was so people, it was because there was like a bit of focus on it. And I remember I emailed Dark Descent and was just like, we just released this, would you like to and he got back and like really quickly like, yeah, that was it. So and it was really that easy, which was unusual. But I think I should say that he had met Greg before, so I think they'd met at a festival in America, so like there was a connection there. So yeah, that was 2018. So and then obviously it's just, look, the whole world's been slowed down, and it's not just COVID, because it's things like Record Store Day, like slowing down vinyl production, and it's just affected everybody. And I think it's still like some really crazy weights. So in terms of just what he's done. I mean, the support is, when you're on a label like that, obviously it's like, you've got stuff covered that you wouldn't be able necessarily to do yourself. So the fact that we're having it on, it's going to be on vinyl. It's just straight black vinyl, gold vinyl, tape, cassette. He's doing shirts, and obviously help with other stuff as well. So can't really complain.
You answered my next bloody question.
Sorry.
So that's what I was going to say. I know the answer to this, but is Dark Descent going to cover everything like CD, tapes, and vinyl? And what different varieties is the material going to be in?
Yeah, basically all those formats. The vinyl's already been pressed. I think the cassettes and CDs are on the way, and he's doing a shirt as well. So I think they're all available for pre-order now. So
is a shirt just like the album cover and a few lyrics in the back?
Yeah, it's like it's just a t-shirt with the logo, and it's like a kind of monochrome version, the artwork. But we're gonna do our own long sleeve as well, like a sort of old school style. So yeah, aye,
nice. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, but I'm going to ask you one last question that will probably spark another 40-minute discussion, because I'm going to ask you on the instruments that you used in the recording of this album. So Derek, we're going to start off with you. What was your bass of choice, your amps, your setup, and how different is it from what you used with Scordatura?
I used the exact same bass that I used for Scordatura. It was just an Ibanez sound gear.
Five string in it?
5-string. I think the one I used was an SR655 model. But apart from that, it was different than like the Scordatura. With Scordatura on the last album, we reamped stuff through a Sans amp and through an actual like rig, whereas this was all just done DI and just done like that. Just recorded straight into the computer and just DIs and just reamped later on with what Greg could do with it. But that was it. That's all I remember. It was just that Ibanez bass and just plugged straight into this computer with just the interface and just got on with it,
Do you know, Ali, this sounds as if you're making life far too easy for Derek here. Because he didn't have any problems whatsoever in this recording process. That's not the way it should be.
I know.
You need to make life more difficult for him. No, fair play. Thank you very much for that. For Derek, Ali, with you being the vocalist then, did you go through like a range of microphones before you were happy with the sound that you got from a particular microphone, or are you just like, that give me an SM58 and I'll fucking sing into it?
I've so like a few years ago, I found, I think it was, again, like I do most of my recording when I can with Guillaume. Like we work well together for various things, but it's a Shure SM7B is what I use. That's like for that type of style that I do. That's just the sound I get out of that's amazing. So that was it. So I mean, it's a great mic. So and as I say, I mean, I've got relatively easy job. I just come in and shout. So.
Well, remind yourself of that comment when you come off after you play a 40-minute set, knackered and your throat's gone and you can't talk. So just remind yourself of that. But listen, you guys, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'll do what I can. I'll promote you on Moshville Radio. Do I have permission to play a song of my choice?
Absolutely. Anything you like. Play the whole thing.
Do you know?
Play the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. That's the right thing.
Wow. Do you know something? I like everything. I like parts from every single song that I've listened to. Towards the Fractal Absolute, I was like, fucking wow. But then it was like Retribution Eternal right after it. But it's just like that. You can listen to the first song and then you think that's going to be the best song in the album, because normally you put the best song in the album and it's the first song. And then the second song came in and it's just something in that song that you're just like, wow. So there's something definitely in every song. And to be honest with you, I don't know what I'm going to play. So, Ali, apart from Epoch of Souls, because I played that like 2 or 3 times now on the radio, give me a song for me to play.
I think you should play the title track.
That's exactly what I'll do then. Exactly what I'll do. Yeah. But like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to Ali and Derek. And I hope all things good are going to be coming for Ageless Summoning, as well as all the other projects that you're involved in. So fair play to you guys. Keep on going what you're doing.
I just want to say thanks very much for the support and appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, Ricky. Thanks for having us, and also just cheers for everything you do, supporting the scene and all the bands you're getting in. So I think it needs to be said. Keep this an interview, but all the interviews and all that you do, all helping out bands, is much appreciated and it's great. So
Derek, he's going to make me cry.
I know he's a man of words, isn't he?
I talk too much. Sorry.
Thanks for that, guys. Cheers.